Hi, I'm Marco Antonio Spaventi. I'm a teacher for the Abbey Institute here in Amsterdam. Today I want to show you how to quickly get started with the Brica remix files. We're going to use Ableton Live DAW. I'm going to quickly show you how to import the files, warp them, get them in sync, get started with the remix. So, what I've got here is a standard Ableton file session. It starts at 120. And here on the Finder, I've got the files you could download from the Abbey Institute blog. When you download the files, you get a folder called Gold 135 BPM. So you already know the original speed of the files, the original BPM of the files. And then you've got two folders, one called Sessions, the other called Stems. The Session folder contains a Pro Tools session, a couple of Pro Tools sessions that you can use to get started immediately with Pro Tools. The other folder contains all the stem files, which are the files that are interesting for us. So we're gonna start with the main vocal, and but before we do that, first tip that I want to give you is set the project speed, the BPM of your session in Ableton, to the same speed as the files, so 135 BPM. Because when you do that, it comes in handy later when we want to warp the files. Then I'm going to import the main vocal here. So we're going to drag and drop the file right at the beginning of the session and double click on it and zoom in all the way at the beginning down here on the inspector. We do that because what we want to do is basically create a new marker point at the very beginning of the file by double clicking there. And then by right clicking on it, we're going to choose Set 111 here. And right after that, we're going to right click again and choose Warp 135 BPM here. As you can see, Ableton resized the file accordingly, because what we did now, basically, we instructed the warp engine to sync the file to 135. So let's repeat this operation now with a couple of more layers. I've got the download folder also here in my browser on the left side of the Ableton screen, and I've got the session files right here and the stems files right here. Okay, so we're going to drag and drop these strings and the synths and pads. By clicking Apple key while you actually drag, you're going to tell Ableton to pile up the files on different tracks. There you go. Just give it a sec that it upcreates the waveform, because obviously Ableton will try by itself to synchronize the files to the session BPM, which works particularly good when you're dealing with beat, for example, or with a complex file, for example, a mix file that contains beat. But when you have files like vocals or strings, bass, things that are stretched over time and don't contain a strong rhythmic information, then Ableton is gonna try to guess. So this operation that I'm showing you now will give you 100% guarantee that the files are synchronized to the tempo. As you can see here, we've got strings which don't contain too much warp markers like the vocal did before, but nevertheless we're going to sync them manually again. So right click after you create a marker at the beginning, set 111, choose 135, warp 135 from here, and here you go. As you can see now, the string clip has exactly the same length as the vocal clip. So we repeat that operation with the synths. Double click, right click, set 111, right click again, warp 135. Here we go. So now we got the three files. Let's delete this extra track. We don't need. There you go. So let's start somewhere from here.
All alone. Take a moment, your eyes notice. All alone. But
let's quickly go to a bit more crowded moment in the song, for example here.
yeah, maybe in my life I'll cure these butterflies. We were like gold, and I know I'll go. Yeah, maybe.
So at this point, these three files that we just forced warp to 135 are synchronized.
Yeah, maybe in my life
So I can create a quick loop of 2 bars, for example, and navigate through the files until I find something that's catchy enough to get a remix started. For example, here.
And I know
Let's deactivate the voice for this operation. Okay, now Apple E will slice up the files accordingly to the loop. And then while the files are playing, you can switch to the session view, which is the scratch pad, let's say, part of Ableton, where you can basically manipulate the clips and create different solutions. And click Shift Apple I to quickly import that section over there. So Ableton created new clips for us in the session view, which will give us the possibility now to keep on working and, for example, loop that part and change the warp settings and change the transposition, for example. So we're going to select the section that Ableton cut for us here and click Apple L to loop it. There you go. And basically drag and drop these files on a line below. There you go. And listen to the results. At this point, what we did then is import some files, warp them tied to the BPM, select a portion of them and loop it in the session view, and now we are free to basically experiment and manipulate those same files.